Hello and welcome to the Volleycast. I am your host, Joe Trinzi, and on the other line, it's Scott Mooney. Scott, how you doing?
Hey guys, doing good, Joe. Good to see you.
Scott's the club director at Cherry Hill Volleyball Club in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And I've just been talking to all of my friends who are coaches and just having all these conversations about how coaches of all different stripes and levels and backgrounds are kind of reacting to this and how we're all just going crazy being locked up.
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Talking about that offline. And getting Scott's perspective from the club perspective, club and high school, actually. Yeah. So, Scott, are you staying sane?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I've kind of transitioned to full-time homeschooling my two children under the age of 7. So I think, sanity is a relative thing at this point. But we're doing well. I mean, it's funny. I do tend to work from the home office, even, when I was working full-time in finance the last 3-4 years, I was full-time from the home office. So for me, it kind of feels somewhat normal, minus the fact that I don't leave and go to a gym at night. Yeah. Right. So, I'm not spending any time, obviously, with my team practicing or the club in general. So that feels pretty different. But, overall, my day-to-day feels kind of okay, except for the kids around a lot more. It's like they're at permanent spring break or something. And, my wife's around a lot more. But yeah, it's been interesting. It's been pretty weird, pretty difficult. And I was telling you offline that my wife's a dentist. So, we're on permanent quarantine. We can't go anywhere. Yeah. So we're not seeing anyone. We're not doing anything. And it's been 4 weeks in and around the house so far. Yeah.
Yeah. So your club and you being in New Jersey, your region, GEVA region, probably was one of, if not the first, to sort of completely close.
Yeah.
The season down.
Yeah. I'm not sure about, Washington State and what they did up there. But if we weren't the first, we were the second. So we're the Garden Empire region, and it's New Jersey and, New York City and that area, Southern New York. So, we shut down pretty early. It was mid-March.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys have been shut down since mid-March, and the whole region has canceled. And so, I mean, there is this sort of like, to me, it's probably like a fiction that USA Volleyball is somewhat maintaining that there's going to be a nationals. I actually think it's fine for them to play, and for the other big summer events, for example, like nationals. Sure. I actually think it's good to keep it on the calendar and have it there. Like, we don't really know exactly how the summer will play out. I'm like very highly, you'd have to give me some real odds for me to there being a nationals. But like, your region assign nationals bids, and how did they do that?
Yeah, so we do have a couple teams that have, qualified for nationals. And how they did that was they only handed out the regional bids. Obviously, all the qualifier bids, that's, up to the Northeast qualifier, Big South, whoever for us that we would go to. Those have been pushed to June also. Once again, I would think those are highly unlikely those happen, just judging what we're seeing here in New Jersey, New York. Yeah. So our region assigned 2 bids to each age group. So if you were first or second in your age group, in the open division, you received a bid. Through GEVA, we have the Power League, so they've already played each other a fair amount of times. So we have 3 teams that are going to nationals that were either first or second. We had 2 first-place finishers at 11s and 15s, and our 14s were ranked second in the region. So we have 3 bids to go to nationals, and I think the parents and kids are really excited about that for sure. But I think if I was a betting man, I'm right in the same boat you are. I don't think these things are going to happen. I just think it's unlikely they're going to open a convention center up with 5,000 to 10,000 people and say, hey, look, it's probably going to be gradual. The social distancing ramped up fast, and I think that the kind of going back to normal is going to be more gradual. Yeah. We were talking even in Philadelphia, NEQ, they had emailed and asked, and I actually spoke to the girl who was doing some of that, and just said, hey, what do you think the realistic odds? Like, oh, well, we're talking to Philadelphia, and I know John Grossman, who was on episode 9, and my sister Carolyn live in Philadelphia, and they're not even close to relaxing these standards. And even then, I think it's going to be like, hey, if it's a restaurant will be open, but 6 feet of distance, or maybe 10 people in a room. I don't think it's going to be 10,000 people in a convention center. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I think especially for some of these large tournaments, because you're bringing teams from all over the country. So correct. In an area like, it's possible, even likely, that New York City and the New York City region is by June, they're well into the period where not the infection is essentially zero, but the sort of
Right.
the localized spread of it will effectively be negligible, because by then the whole population is going to be exposed for, I mean, as far as
Yeah.
that kind of sounds, but like
Yeah.
New
No, I
York
think
is
that's
going
probably
through,
realistic. Yeah.
yeah, the horror now. But you don't want that outside, like it's just that, the areas, it's going to be localized and when like the spread and when the peak is. So I don't imagine seeing that.
Oh yeah, I
But
mean, it goes both ways too, right? I mean, people flying in, if you come into, let's say, Philadelphia for the Northeast qualifier or anywhere else, or nationals or wherever it is that everyone's congregating, the people flying in can take it back with them to their communities.
exactly. Yeah.
Or, if you're in New York or New Jersey, let's say social distancing worked really well, and let's say only 25% of the people did get it, so maybe it's still a really low number. Maybe we don't want people coming in from other states to New Jersey, New York, or wherever, and bringing that back in and kind of restarting the epidemic locally. So I think it could go either way, but yeah, I think, I'm not a scientist and certainly not a doctor, but, just trying to follow the data a little bit. And it looks like it's going to be hard in both directions for that to happen, I think.
Yeah. You're not a doctor, but you're married to a dentist. So I mean, it's pretty much, you're basically a medical professional as far
so
as
25% doctor, is that what it comes down to? You're the stats guy, right?
Yeah, I think that's the equation. And,
there you go.
one thing that I've been talking about is like, I think the possibility of teams having some practice or teams possibly being able to play individual matches is much more doable by the summer than convention tournaments. And that's what I've been talking to club directors about. Are you guys thinking anything about that? Because I think you can imagine a scenario where, two teams could play each other and maybe say there's going to be no parents in the gym, or maybe you're going to say something like that. And, okay, the total amount of people in the gym is only going to be 25 or 30 people total with two teams and a ref or something like that.
Yeah.
That's something that you're thinking about. Is your region talking about that at all? Or is it more like we're just looking at volleyball for overall guidelines? Like, is there, I mean, and to some degree, like we can kind of speculate about what the return to play will be like.
Sure.
Matter, but there's some value in speculating to just be prepared when you do.
Right. I mean, I think my honest assessment is that, the next time that we're going to see volleyball in a club capacity is going to be the fall for GEVA region. Now, I could be wrong on that. Maybe something will happen. Maybe there's some medical intervention, whether it's, vaccine is probably still, 6 to 12 months out at least. Right. So that's probably not realistic, but, maybe there is some kind of treatment mechanism that we can go through and that helps. But I think right now, no, I mean, for those 3 teams that have qualified for nationals, if nationals goes on, our kind of long-term plan is, hey, we'd initiate some kind of practices in June and, do 3 to 4 weeks on the lead up to nationals for those teams only, and maybe bring in some of our other teams to kind of practice against them.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of the limitation and of maybe what we've looked at. But in terms of playing individual matches, I mean, we get to our summer programming in mid-June, where we're starting to play outdoors a little bit more down here, maybe some grass stuff. We have some individual training and stuff like that. I doubt that we're going to be dragging people back. And, of course, then you're fighting summer vacations and everything else, if that's a thing, right? And then also just the perception of people's comfort level and everything else that they're going to have going on. So now for us, I mean, once we went kind of, I guess, like to our dead period, which was, mid-March, when GEVA shut down everything and we're not insured anymore to practice or play. No, we gave it a week to see what was happening, and then reached out to all of our parents and everyone else and told them that that's it for us. So we've kind of moved on. I think only those teams that would have qualified for nationals we'd consider getting back in the gym for. But man, I mean, our gym is closed. We rent our gym and we don't have access. So I don't know when that would even be available. So I think that we're probably like, realistically in my head as a club director, I'm thinking that, and I've talked to, John about this extensively, our co-director, I don't think that we're going to be back until the summer. We've got kind of fingers crossed for summer programs, and which is outdoors for us. Yeah. So hoping that's the case. And even then might ask parents to stay away, kind of like drop your kid. We'll sanitize you on the way in. We'll play for 2 hours. We'll sanitize you on the way out. No parents are out of the cars or anything like that. I mean, we're talking about these options.
Like scrub in, scrub out.
Pretty much. And it's funny, we're actually thinking about it going forward for the club because, hey, you walk into these gyms and, I'm sure obviously your parents have a club and you're around a lot of club volleyball. I mean, man, we pass stuff around through teams and there'll be a week or 2 of our season where everyone's just dead. Like it's just, we're dragging kids to tournaments, and maybe this is a better option for all of us. Maybe you just got to go to the bathroom and wash your hands before you get on the practice court. maybe you got to do the same thing when you're leaving, and hopefully that can kind of curtail some of the normal regular cold, flu, whatever. But yeah, my guess is for us as a club, I think that we're done. And I think GEVA as a region, unless some people, they have been explicit about no workarounds,
Yep.
So I think that at this point, I think GEVA as a whole is probably done. I really haven't had any club directors reach out to me about reestablishing play outside of teams that are going to nationals. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think anybody, the liability cascade effectively is, it's sort of a wonder of like when play will restart. And just to be clear, I am in 0% advocating for any return before, the quote unquote powers that be say that it's safe. The tricky part will be like, who will be the first governing body to say that it is safe? And is like whoever goes first, are they like exposing themselves to some sort of liability risk?
Right.
It's
yeah.
Like, who says it's okay to go?
Well, right. I mean, until the CDC or someone says, on a federal level, maybe, I don't know that I'd be comfortable as a club director, and even if we did, I mean, I don't know, is there some kind of waiver they should sign on the way in the first day? I don't actually know.
Yeah.
So I think that we're going to look at that. I mean, you mentioned that I also coach in high school, and I was just having a conversation with a high school coach in this area. And, we're wondering if summertime practice is even a thing. At this point in the state of New Jersey, every state's different. And, like I said, we're kind of on the forefront of this. I think New Jersey, New York, the schools are shut down right now. And I don't necessarily know that I see a reasonable solution to the schools being open by the summer. Why, if you were a school district, why would you necessarily open your school by the summer? What's the point?
Right.
Why not give it the extra month or whatever of just not having people in one place? So, whether my AD at Cherry Hill is super supportive and, he's great, but it might not be a call that he can make for us, So we are kind of looking at other options and, what can we do to stay at least in shape? I don't know how much volleyball you can get done, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit. But, I think to stay in shape at least, and then, try and get some touches in, or maybe have outdoor stuff in the summer. But if the school's closed and tell us not to practice, I mean, we can't be outside practicing either. It's just going to be what it is. And like you said, there's some liability risk stuff there that I'm not going to touch,
Yeah, totally. I think kind of also one of the issues will be like with less play over the summer and compressed, potentially compressed preseason if, there's more athletes being set up for injury or something like that. It's a little worrisome as to how, I don't know all of the rules, but for example, a sport like football has, I want to say it's like for high school football, it's like you have to practice X amount of days without pads. You have to practice X amount of days with pads before you can play, something like that.
Yeah, it's heat acclimatization or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like volleyball doesn't have exactly something like that, but I think it's pretty clear that playing a match on like one day's practice is probably not the way to go.
I think so.
Kind of guidelines, are there. Like, for example, like if a school says, well, you can't do any practice until the first day of school, for example.
Yeah, that's going to be a really compressed season if that happens. In the preseason, we probably wouldn't jump right into double sessions or anything like that. I think that we would probably, kind of ramp up a little slowly. I mean, New Jersey does have a lot of rules in terms of we have to have 7 days of practice in before we scrimmage and stuff like that. So there are some rules that, we're kind of, we have to abide by. But other areas, I have no idea. Every state's going to be different there. And, on the flip side of that, and I'm sure, maybe this is a moderate silver lining, is that, we're seeing so many kids with these overuse injuries, right? And our seasons are now running. I mean, we play high school volleyball from, mid-August in New Jersey through, kind of mid-November, hopefully, if you're doing well, And then, we have our tryouts somewhere in the interim for a club. We take 2 to 3 weeks off and we start in December, and then we're in December all the way through the holidays and into kind of early May. And I know a lot of clubs go past that. We go to early May and then we take a break. And then, hey, if you're going to nationals, you ramp back up in June. And then that's our summer programming is in June, so we go mid-June to mid-August. So, pretty much they're playing, I don't know, would you say 10 and a half months a year, It's a lot.
Functionally year-round for players who are really serious high school.
Yeah, if we're serious about it, for sure.
So, year-round, yeah.
Yeah, maybe a couple of the overuse. Maybe the shoulders are in a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's time for some repair. I don't know. I'm trying to find any silver lining on this one.
No,
But
for sure. Well, it makes me think. Do you think that there's any change? It could be better or worse, but do you think there's going to be any change in parents and players' overall attitudes towards club volleyball? Are there going to be parents that and the cost of club volleyball and how you're navigating that as a club director?
Yeah. So with the parents, there were a couple things that we did kind of from the beginning. So the first thing we did was, I think in a situation like this, you want to over communicate. I really spent a lot of time as a club director trying to send out, kind of these big email updates about what's going on and just passing along what is GEVA saying, what's USA Volleyball saying, and then what are we doing? And then at the end of those emails, I would always give an expectation of when you can expect to hear from me again. Because you can imagine, the first week when we sent an email out and it was like, hey, practice is canceled, just hang tight. There were a lot of questions coming in. Yep. And so we really tried to get in front of that first and just be very clear about what we're doing. Then there comes to be the financial implications, right? And I think that, whatever business you're in right now, if you're the owner, I think you have to take financial leadership in this one. And, the reality is, we still have, a lot of our season left, pretty much a month and a half of our season, because, we go up to regionals, which is usually, late April, early May. And what we decided to do as a club is to give a refund to our parents for a certain amount. Now, we are apparently getting refunds from, some of the tournaments that could not be held. So we're expecting to see some of that entry fee come back in. And as a club director, I'm not taking anything until, all the finances are done. We're making sure we can pay our coaches for the time that they worked. So we're paying them partial for March. All of our coaches are really independent contractors here. They're not, we only have 2 or 3 coaches on staff that are doing volleyball full time. Right. So, most of whom I think, so, it's, that's a situation that we want to make sure we take care of. And just to be fair to the parents, because, is it going to be tough? Is this tough for my family? Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But think of how many families are out there who might have been laid off or furloughed or whatever it is. And, what we're kind of coming back to that number is about 20%. We're going to try and give like a 20% refund. And, I asked the parents to be flexible with me and give me time. We don't know when we're going to be refunded for all of the missed GEVA tournaments, for the NAQ tournament, for all this stuff. We don't really have a timeline. So I told them, we're going to get refunds out to your families as soon as we can. Well, we're hoping that's going to be May or June. Mm-hmm. But there's, like I said, we have running a club, there is overhead, right? There's stuff that we pay for that we're not getting back. And, our coaches have put in a certain amount of time and we feel like we need to compensate them accordingly. I think we have a great staff here and, want to make sure that they're, compensated for the work that they put in. But we are, looking at taking some of the financial burden as a club and passing on, some of those fees back to our families to refund them.
Yeah. You coming from your background in the finance world.
Yeah.
Before you, of course, parlay that into the lucrative club volleyball.
Oh yeah. The best trade-off ever made. Go from hedge fund to, when I graduated from school to running a volleyball club in Southern New Jersey. It's a good one.
So, clearly millions. No, but I think that you have a more maybe like proactive stance when it comes to how you're managing things financially than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, just, obviously you don't have to name names or anything like that.
Yeah, of course.
From clubs out there, what are you seeing? Like, what percentage of clubs do you think are going to fold? What percentage of clubs do you think should fold? Mm-hmm. What percentage of clubs do you think come out of this unscathed, et cetera? Like, just all lands.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, look, we rent our facility. So I think that we have some overhead and financial, flexibility there, because when our facility closed, they're not charging us past, March when we were in there. Right. So I think that the clubs that own their own facilities are probably feeling this the most. And the club directors who do this as a full-time job, who are, just running their club are feeling this the most. Right. And they probably have to make some tough decisions about keeping things open and everything else. Now, with the government, I don't know that I fully understand, because, I didn't take the time to research what's going on with the mortgages. If you have a mortgage out on a facility, do you have to pay that mortgage? Can you get it delayed for a month or two? When are we going to be back? But the bottom line is that if I'm a parent and, our parents invest a nice amount of money. I mean, we're cheap for clubs when you look around the area and when you look nationally, but it's still a lot of money.
On the
And
national scale, you guys are definitely an affordable club, but just for the terms of a household income,
yeah, right.
still
In
four
South
figures.
Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and just publish on our website. So I'm not saying, but our high school players pay $2,500 for a season. And, we're playing several multi-days. We're qualifying teams for nationals. We have girls going to play Division I volleyball now. So I think that they're getting a lot for the money. But, you go to other areas and this, you go across the bridge, it's going to be double that in Pennsylvania. You go down to Texas and some other places, it could be, $8,000-$10,000.
Yeah, it could be triple that. Yep.
Yeah. So, so we're in a situation where, we feel like we're pretty reasonable, but the bottom line is, if a lot of our families are sacrificing so much, and we always say thank you to our parents at the end of the season for sacrificing all the time, money, and just emotional effort into our club. But yeah, I think that matters a lot. And if we can give, a couple $100 back to everybody that they can, go to the grocery store with, or just have, and save just in case, we're going to try and do that. Does it put the club in a good situation? No, certainly not. But I think that you have to consider those things. Now, if you own a facility, that's overhead that you're not getting back, hypothetically. Now, I don't know, like I said, what they can negotiate with the people who run their mortgages and everything else. But I think you're a little more at risk right now if you own your facility. And you're a little more at risk if you are paying a larger staff of people who might not be coaches. When you look at some of the bigger clubs, I'm sure they have social media coordinators, technical advisors. They probably have recruiting coordinator. Yeah, exactly. All these things. Maybe there's a co-director. Maybe this is their only source of income. I think those clubs are going to have to make some tough decisions. And I don't see a lot of clubs folding necessarily. But I do see parents probably thinking about the financial. Like if you were at a club and you were a parent and you didn't get a refund, one thing that we looked at was if we can't afford refunds, if we physically can't do it, we don't have the money, then we'll give free summer programming and we'll just volunteer our time. Like, basically, John, myself, Carolyn, some of our kind of coaches that have been around for a little while or who are, acting in leadership capacities, we would just donate our time to do it. Now it looks like we'll be able to give some kind of financial component back, but I think a lot of clubs, I would think there's gonna be some tough times for the people who own big facilities and have to maintain those facilities for sure.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of club volleyball that we all know this. There's a prestige element.
Sure. Yeah.
And to some degree, that's what club parents have been paying for.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to get the uniform package that has 4 dry fit long sleeve uniforms.
Yeah.
And it definitely feels prestigious to, hey, we have our own facility where we have all this sport court down and all of that. And there's nothing wrong with selling that product. I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
But I think that, as you mentioned it, I think there's going to be some more opportunities coming out of this for, lack of a term, like more bare bones volleyball programs.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I don't know if they can support the social media coordinator and recruiting coordinator.
Yeah. I don't know.
But there may be some parents who don't want to play for that. And, there is a pathway for that. I can, say from my own experience, I ran basically like an instructional level volleyball club, when I was coaching at maybe like a more nationally competitive club. And I kind of, before I got into college coaching or anything like that. And then I ran like this more like instructional level program. So we weren't registered through USAV. We were AAU, which is a little bit cheaper and some stuff like that to go through. And the tournament registration is a little more flexible. Yeah. And we did 1 night a week of practice. We had t-shirt jerseys.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We had 1 t-shirt jersey.
Yeah,
and then we had, we just played a couple single days. And the cost was like $500 per kid.
Yeah.
Just rented out like whatever sort of cheap, back gym of whatever school we could
whatever school's around the corner, right? Yeah. For sure.
And it was like $500 per kid. And I made a reasonable, not like necessarily was making like a huge profit, but like I was saving it for my time. I paid myself a reasonable whatever amount for that. And that was like for $500 a kid.
Yeah, and especially if you can find a great gym, that's the big thing for us is gym space, right? So if you can find a gym, you can run a really nice streamlined program and do some good things. Yeah, for sure.
And I just what I'm wondering is if some of the sort of like big prestige clubs, they've been that's been the big trend in club volleyball over the past.
Oh, definitely.
Call it over the last 10 years.
The aggregation of teams and just the expansion of these clubs for sure. Yeah.
bigger clubs have gotten bigger. There's been a push to have own facilities, to have this, to have that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if this might be a little bit of that sort of natural like business cycle that tends to kind of do this, is like industries aggregate and then they disseminate and aggregate and disseminate.
Sure. Yeah.
This might be a little bit of a breakup cycle in club volleyball, and there might be opportunities to have some smaller kind of events.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're seeing this in some other industries too. And, one of them is the education, right? So, I don't know if you're a fan of Malcolm Gladwell at all, but he's talked about this a lot, where at these universities, right, they're going through and they're just, hey, it's bigger, better cafeterias and bigger, better gyms and everything else. But then as that goes, tuition goes up and up and up. And student loans have went with that, lockstep. And I think now maybe we're seeing at the college level, maybe some kids are going to community college for 2 years and then transferring in and then only spending 2 years on big tuition and some other things. So we've actually talked with a lot of our players about that, how they're managing that too. So I think we are seeing it like in educational institutions. I think we're seeing it at club volleyball. But you're right. It's like, when does the substance matter the most? Is it about performance and development? If that's the case, then, I think you can do it at a very cheap level if you find the right coaches to go in there and implement the right plans.
Well, we see that with club tournaments as well, because club tournaments, there's been an aggregation there. The biggest club tournaments have gotten bigger.
Yeah.
The travel, a typical club volleyball. I can remember, I'm young enough to remember 20 years. My parents have been running a club for 25, almost 30 years. I can remember 20 years ago, club volleyball. If you played a couple of 2 multi-days a year, that was a pretty bold schedule.
Yeah.
And now teams, if they play 2 single days a year, it feels like you're in a rinky-dink operation. Or
that's true. That's true.
Do you? And I have questioned to the clubs that I work with. I work with a consult or whatever with a fair amount of clubs all around the country, and I've been questioning what they're getting out of some of these multi-day tournaments. It used to be the idea that you're going to go and you're going to get to play elite teams from around the country.
Right.
But I think that multi-day tournaments, just broadly speaking, in a desire to grow, there's not really, your sort of like power league tournaments now, not like your regional power league tournament necessarily, but like these sort of like multi-regional power leagues or even qualifiers and stuff like that. Half the time, I wonder what clubs are getting out of some of these tournaments, because you go there and you're just playing the teams that are from your area,
your region. But I think it depends on the tournament. We tend to go kind of regionally, not nationally. We'll play at nationals when we qualify, but we have NEQ right in our backyard. So we're fortunate there because we are actually a local team. We don't have to get hotels for that. And, I think that, was a longer story, but, I think when you have to get the travel stuff, that gets more expensive. And then we have, Capital Classic is pretty close. And then we'll go down to Richmond to play against teams we never see. So, kind of a mix for us there. But I think that we, with the GEVA Power League, which requires 5 dates, 5 single days, and then we have 3 to 4 multi-days, I think we're in a good spot. But I do agree with you. I don't know if some of these travels, some of these big ticket items, if parents are going to have a taste for that, going forward. But we'll see, and we're all trying to navigate this together. And I guess now, the big thing, I think, now you tell me if you want to talk about it, but it's like what we're doing at home now, right? Because I think that's the next new thing that we're trying to navigate a little bit here. Which has been interesting.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. I think we might need to do a part 2, because we're
all right.
Not coming up on time. This is one of our longer episodes. You should keep these episodes. So, Scott, are you going to be up for a part 2?
I'm up for part 2. Let's do it. We'll tell you guys how to train your kids at home, or if it's even possible, right?
All right. Well, that's awesome. Maybe in the next few days, we'll have you back on. We'll do a part 2 from that perspective. We got so kind of sidetracked on this other stuff, which I think is also good stuff to talk about, because a lot of clubs are going through that.
Yeah, definitely. We'll drag John in on that one. I'm sure he has a lot of opinions on what you can and can't do at home, right?
that will be awesome. Cool. So, Scott, thanks for joining us, and everybody listening, thanks for listening. Just kind of a couple notes. We got a premium webinar with Alfie Ref coming up on Saturday. That's sold out, but we'll have it up for sale afterwards if you guys want to go on the Scout VB shop and check that out. And a week from Saturday, we're recording this on Wednesday. Yeah, recording this on Wednesday. From Saturday. A week from Sunday, so the 19th. We got Dan Fisher coming on, talking about head coach of University of Pittsburgh, talking about teaching and training attacking. Now, as of this recording, there's only 4 spots left for that. We keep these webinars limited to 20 people so that we can actually have them as like a dialogue and a conversation and not just a presentation, which I think is a lot more value when you get to attend. So if you are interested in talking with Dan Fisher about attacking, there's only 4 spots left. So you might want to move quick on that. And we'll keep trying to get some more good premium webinars because we're all stuck in our homes right now. But one of the good things is some of the best coaches in the country are also stuck at home. So they have a little extra time to dedicate to some of these webinars. So
well, Joe, on the way out, I'll say that Alfie was awesome. We had a chance to meet him down in Delaware when you ran the clinic down there, and highly recommend it. We actually implemented a lot of that stuff in our practices in the second half of our club season. Or I should say our bridge club season, and really liked the results there. So yeah, highly recommend Alfie, and it does some good work.
Yeah, you're one of the last people to get in the gym in person with Alfie before. That was only like a month before things got shut down. Yeah, so
pretty accurate.
He's awesome, and I'm fired up to get in there. And Dan Fisher and I, we were trying to work out a date for a live event for like a year, but now we finally figured out how to get it going through webinar. So we'll do that.
Nice.
All right, Scott, thanks for being on, and everybody else, thanks for listening to the Volleycast.